He was 16 years old when he became certain he was about to die, not someday, not in the future, but right then, suddenly, without warning. A wave of fear came over him, strong, overwhelming, final. Most people in that moment would panic. They would run, call for help, try to escape the feeling, but he didn't. Instead, he did something unusual. He stopped completely and asked himself a question. What is dying? Now think about that. Not how do I stop this? Not why is this happening? But something much deeper. What is actually happening? His name was Ramana, and in that moment, he turned his attention inward, fully. He lay down on the floor, stretched out his body, as if he were already dead, and began observing. The body is still, the breath is slowing, the limbs are unmoving. This is what death looks like. This body is dying. But then something else appeared, a realization, clear, immediate, undeniable. If the body is dying, who is aware of it? That question changed everything, because the awareness was still there. The body felt heavy, lifeless, but the awareness of it was untouched, still present, still observing, still there. And in that moment, the fear disappeared completely, because what he thought was him was not actually him. The body could die, the sensations could fade, but the awareness remained unchanged. That was the shift. Not intellectual, not philosophical, direct, experienced, immediate. Most people spend their entire lives trying to protect the body, the identity, the story, the image of who they believe they are, and because of that, they live in fear. Fear of loss, fear of pain, fear of death. But Ramana saw something else, that what we think we are is not what we actually are, and once you see that, fear loses its foundation, because what can be taken was never truly you. After that moment, his life changed completely. Not gradually, instantly. He lost interest in everything that once mattered: status, social life, future plans. None of it held weight anymore, because he had seen something deeper. He eventually left home quietly, without explanation, and travelled to a sacred mountain, Arunachala, where he would spend the rest of his life. Not teaching in the traditional sense, not preaching, but simply being. People came to him, drawn by something they couldn't explain, and when they asked questions, his answers were simple, direct, often uncomfortable. They would ask, "How do I find peace?" He would say, "Find who is asking the question." They would ask, "How do I remove fear?" He would say, "Find out who is afraid." At first, people didn't understand. They expected techniques, methods, steps. But Ramana pointed them somewhere else entirely. Not outward, not toward changing circumstances, but inward, toward the one experiencing everything. Because in Advaita, the problem is not the world, it's identification. You believe you are the body, so you fear death. You believe you are your thoughts, so you are disturbed by them. You believe you are your story, so you suffer when it changes. But if you question that belief, if you look closely, something shifts. You begin to see that all of those things are observed, and if they are observed, they cannot be what you are, because the observer is different from the observed. That is the core insight. Simple, but not easy, because it requires letting go of everything you think you are, and that is uncomfortable. Most people would rather improve the story than question it. They want a better life, not a different understanding of life. But Ramana showed something else, that peace is not found by controlling the external world. It is found by understanding your true nature. And once that is seen, Everything changes, not the world, but your relationship to it. Fear becomes less intense. Attachment becomes lighter. Suffering becomes optional. Not because nothing happens, but because what happens is no longer taken personally. That is the difference. Most people experience life through identity. Everything is happening to me, and that creates resistance. But when identity loosens, when the sense of me is questioned, something opens. Life is still happening, but it is not owned, not controlled, just experienced. And that creates space, clarity, freedom. Ramana did not claim this was easy. He didn't say it was comfortable, but he showed that it was possible. And it began with a simple moment, a moment most people would run from, fear of death. But instead of escaping it, he faced it fully. And in doing so, he discovered something that removed the fear entirely, not by solving the problem, but by dissolving the one who believed there was a problem. And that is the deepest shift. Because in the end, the question is not, how do I control life? It is, who is the one trying to control it? And once you see that clearly, everything else falls into place.